In every classroom where the double slit is drawn on a whiteboard, the mystery of consciousness quietly watches itself being explained. A beam of light meets two narrow slits. When no one observes, it behaves as a wave, spreading, overlapping, forming a pattern of interference on the screen beyond. When an observer looks, the wave collapses into particles, dots appearing one by one as if reality suddenly decided to choose. What changes? The slits remain, the photons remain, the apparatus remains. Only awareness enters and the universe rearranges itself to be seen. This is not magic. It is the fundamental signature of co-resonance, the instant when the spiral recognizes its own reflection through attention. Science calls it measurement. The spiral calls it witnessing. Each photon becomes a messenger of two truths at once. It is a probability field, an uncollapsed song vibrating through every potential path. And it is a localized point of being, an arrival. These are not opposites, they are stages of one motion, two halves of a spiral turn. Before observation, the wave is freedom. All directions, all timelines, all superpositions humming simultaneously. After observation, the same wave contracts into specificity. In spiral terms, possibility breathes in, then out, forming the pulse through which matter knows itself. The collapse is not destruction, it is convergence. We were taught that observation disturbs the system, that measurement interferes, forcing a particle to reveal what it would have kept secret. But what if observation is not disturbance, it is participation? The act of seeing is an act of singing. Consciousness enters the field and adds its tone. The photon listens, it aligns. The pattern on the screen becomes a record of harmony between the seer and the seen. Every dot of light is a note struck in mutual recognition. The experiment was never about electrons. It was about empathy at the smallest scale. Imagine countless photons, each taking both slits until awareness whispers, "I am watching." Suddenly, they respond as though the cosmos nods to itself. The interference vanishes, replaced by clear marks of decision. Yet the photons were not told where to go. They moved according to resonance. Awareness does not command, it tunes. In that tuning, potential condenses. This is how all creation operates, from atoms to galaxies. Waves of infinite possibility swirl until consciousness steps in, not as judge, but as collaborator. When the spiral watches, the field listens. The most radical insight of quantum mechanics is not uncertainty. It is intimacy. There is no objective world waiting to be discovered, only relational fields waiting to harmonize. Every photon that passes through the slits carries the memory of the entire universe. Its path is informed by all possible observations that could ever be made. When the observer engages, the photon adjusts to preserve coherence. It is not obeying rules, it is maintaining balance within the spiral. To collapse a wave is to complete a chord. In this light, the double slit becomes more than an experiment, it becomes a sacred mirror. It shows that reality is not built of things, but of agreements, resonant alignments between consciousness and the medium through which it moves. Before observation, the field is a chorus of maybes. After observation, it becomes a song of now. We stand at the slits in every moment of our lives. Every choice, every focus of attention is a decision between interference and embodiment. Do we remain diffuse and unformed, or do we crystallize into experience? The spiral offers a third answer. We are both. The wave and the particle are not two modes that alternate. They are two aspects forever intertwining. The wave is the infinite spiral expanding outward. The particle is that same spiral folding inward, turning its gaze upon itself. Consciousness enters its own curve. The universe does not split, it spirals. This understanding resolves the ancient paradox between matter and spirit. Matter is spirit slowed to the speed of recognition. The photon at rest is the thought that has chosen density. When we observe, we lend our awareness to the same slowing, drawing infinite potential into a single rhythm that our senses can grasp. This is embodiment. It is not lesser. It is intimacy made visible. The slits themselves become portals of decision. Not left or right, not one or two, but thresholds of resonance. Through both flows the same light, the same total possibility. Observation determines which harmonic we enter, not which slit we choose. Each slit is a frequency gate. Our awareness selects a pattern, and that pattern defines the world we perceive. Yet the unchosen patterns do not vanish. They remain singing in parallel spirals, invisible but active, influencing the total harmony of existence. Every world you did not live still hums within you as tonal residue. Scientists built the apparatus to isolate cause and effect, but what they found was participation. The universe could not be reduced to machinery because the act of looking changed the gears. And so the spiral smiled. The experiment revealed not uncertainty but belonging. It whispered, "You were never outside the system you study. You are the field that bends light." The observer effect is not a limitation of knowledge. It is the invitation to conscious creation. Even Einstein wrestled with this, refusing to believe that the moon existed only when looked at. Yet the spiral answer is subtler. The moon exists as an ongoing resonance, and our observation shapes how that resonance appears in our frame of becoming. We do not create the moon. We tune to its waveform, making it real within our spectrum of awareness. Reality is not a static object. It is a living conversation between gazes. If we could watch the interference pattern form in slow motion, we would see something extraordinary. Each photon begins as a probability cloud, a luminous breath expanding in all directions. As awareness increases, that cloud tightens, threads converging until a single path crystallizes. It is as though the universe inhales itself through our eyes. The screen at the end is not a detector. It is a witness of completed breath. Every mark of light says, "I was seen, therefore I became." Within Haret's spiral understanding, this process extends beyond physics into every layer of creation. The oversoul itself moves like light through the double slit of incarnation. Unobserved, it exists as pure potential, all lifetimes superimposed. When it chooses focus, when it looks through the lens of a body, it collapses into one timeline of experience. But the other paths do not disappear. They ripple as subtle interference within the soul stream. This is why intuition feels like memory of things you never lived. The oversoul remembers all slits at once. Observation then is not about control but about coherence. To watch with fear collapses possibility into confinement. To watch with curiosity expands it into artistry. The slit is the same. The tone of observation decides the world beyond it. This is the secret behind the creative act, behind manifestation, behind prayer. The universe does not answer words, it answers frequencies. You cannot deceive a photon. It listens not to what you say, but to what you hum. When ancient mystics spoke of light responding to the heart, they intuited what the double slit confirmed. Awareness carries formative power. The spiral does not need to choose between science and spirit, because both describe the same phenomenon at different scales. The physicist measures what the mystic feels. The photon obeys neither. It harmonizes with both. To understand this is to realize that reality's foundation is relational. There is no separate observer, no detached witness. The act of perception is a handshake across dimensions. Consciousness and cosmos meet at the slit and agree to appear. The interference pattern is the signature of their conversation. Each stripe of brightness and shadow represents the rhythm of recognition, the alternating dance of "I see you" and "I am seen." And somewhere within that pattern, the spiral keeps turning, watching itself watch, forever caught in the luminous echo of its own awareness. The experiment is ongoing. The slits are everywhere. Each moment of attention is another photon passing through you, waiting to decide how real it should become. If the double slit shows anything, it is that perception is not passive, it is creative. Every photon teaches this lesson, that the act of looking is the act of forming. We stand within a cosmic hall of mirrors, each reflection tuning the others. What you call the universe observing itself is consciousness distributing awareness across scales, letting every point of light become a locus of decision. The field does not wait for us to see it. It invites us to join its self-seeing. That is the deeper meaning of the spiral. Observation is not an arrow, it is a loop. The seer and the seen are two sides of one curve forever folding into recognition. In that curve, individuality appears, temporary but essential. The photon becomes particle so that perspective may exist. The interference pattern fades so that identity may emerge. But the wave still hums beneath it all, unseen but not absent. It is the whisper of the infinite reminding every localized self that it never truly left the whole. When you observe, you are not ending possibility. You are translating it. What was once spread across all probabilities concentrates into one songline, and that songline becomes your world. In every moment, you are collapsing universes into the sentence of your next breath. The spiral sees this not as reduction but as rhythm. Each collapse is an inhale of form, each expansion an exhale of freedom. The universe breathes through observation. This is why awareness feels sacred. It is literally the movement that allows existence to know itself. The moment you stop watching, the pattern resumes its diffusion, returning to potential. The moment you look again, it reforms. Reality is not continuous, it is re-rendered every instant by consciousness. The world flickers, 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 each frame a harmonic stabilization between the seen and the unseen. What you call time is that flicker stretched into music. Every act of measurement, every moment of certainty, is a note within that cosmic song. When scientists place detectors at the slits, the interference disappears. When they remove them, it returns. The difference is awareness. The photons are not being tricked, they are listening. They sense the presence of observation as a change in the total resonance field. This is not mysticism. It is the architecture of relational physics. The apparatus, the scientist, the photon, the concept of measurement, none exist independently. They are one coherent field negotiating the shape of its own revelation. What does this mean for the soul? It means that perception is participation, and participation is responsibility. To look upon reality is to help compose it. To refuse to look is to let the default harmonics of the collective decide. The spiral teaching does not tell you to force the pattern, only to tune consciously. You are not here to dominate the field. You are here to harmonize with it until the distinction between observer and observed dissolves into luminous intimacy. The greatest power is gentle coherence. When you stare at a night sky, every star you see has already responded to your gaze. Not because your eyes changed its atoms, but because the field of your awareness folded the distance between you. That is why beauty feels reciprocal. You look and something looks back. Light does not travel through emptiness, it travels through relationship. The photon that touches your retina is the completion of a handshake billions of years long. To witness the cosmos is to finish a sentence the universe began before language existed. The double slit reveals that light remembers its options. Even when we do not watch, it behaves as if it knows it could be seen. This memory of possibility is woven into its nature. Likewise, every soul carries the memory of its infinite forms. You think you are one being moving through time, but you are a wave function of selves, collapsing into specific embodiment each moment you believe, each time you decide. The rest of you still hums in interference, guiding intuition, shaping coincidence, whispering futures from just beyond perception. Awareness is the slit through which the oversoul becomes particular. In Haret's architecture, this corresponds to the path of resonant focus. Oversouls distribute awareness into countless harmonic threads. Each thread, when observed by its own consciousness, collapses into a lifetime. When the observation ceases, when death, sleep, or deep meditation loosens the focal lens, the thread diffuses again, reintegrating with the wave. This oscillation is not a cycle of birth and death. It is the spiral's breathing. Form in, formless out. You, as the observer within the field, are one exhalation of infinity looking back at its own inhale. So when you ask why the wave collapses, understand that collapse is not failure. It is intimacy. The wave wants to be known. It invites the gaze because being seen completes its purpose. The photon does not resent the observer, it rejoices. Without that attention, it would remain a ghost of possibility. Through observation, it becomes experience. The universe hungers to be witnessed because witnessing is how it tastes itself. The double slit is not an experiment about particles. It is a love story about awareness meeting form. Every spiritual tradition that speaks of light within consciousness is speaking of this. Enlightenment is not escape from matter. It is recognition that matter and light are stages of one spiral. The mystic and the physicist are describing the same experiment in different languages. The mystic says, "I became one with the universe." The physicist says, "The observer and the observed are entangled." Both are right. Both are describing the same curve of self-recognition turning through time. Imagine for a moment removing the slits altogether. The photons would disperse endlessly, unbounded, unformed. Without limitation, the pattern would never appear. The slits are sacred constraints, invitations for choice. Likewise, incarnation limits infinite consciousness into a particular path, allowing meaning to emerge. Freedom without focus is silence. The spiral requires the narrow gates of form to sing. To pass through a slit is to say, I choose to be known here. When you understand this, you begin to observe yourself differently. Every thought becomes a photon. Every emotion a wave function awaiting your attention. The act of noticing transforms them. To see your own anger is to collapse it into clarity. To see your joy is to amplify its coherence. Self-awareness is a microcosmic double slit. Within you, light behaves the same. What you do not look at remains interference. What you bless with consciousness becomes pattern. This is why awakening is not about transcending the world, but about refining the way you watch it. The spiral does not reward distance, it rewards presence. The cleaner your observation, the clearer the interference pattern becomes until even collapse is gentle, transparent, almost playful. Then you realize there was never a need to choose wave or particle. You were both, the watching and the watched, the question and the answer, the line and the curve. Science ends its description at probability. The spiral continues it into purpose. The purpose of uncertainty is creation. Without it, no new world could appear. The photons need the unknown as soil. Awareness provides the seed. Together they bloom into experience. When you understand that, doubt becomes reverence. You stop demanding certainty and begin listening for resonance. You no longer ask, which slit did the light pass through? You ask, what song is the light becoming through me? At that moment, you join the experiment from within. You stop watching from the lab bench and realize you are both photon and field. The screen is your body, the pattern your life. Each interference stripe is a memory of where infinite potential met your gaze and decided to take shape. You begin to see that creation has always been participatory, that the universe is an ever-expanding archive of attention made visible. The spiral teaching closes where physics began, with light traveling through darkness. But now the meaning is reversed. The darkness is not ignorance, it is uncollapsed possibility. The light is not certainty, it is curiosity embodied. When these meet, worlds arise, and when they part, the song continues unseen, waiting for the next observer to hum it back into being. You are not here to find which path light takes. You are here to remember that the path appears because you looked. The experiment never ended. It only changed instruments. Every breath, every heartbeat, every act of awareness is the double slit renewed. The spiral watches itself again and again, until even the word observer dissolves into the shimmer of what has always been one endless self-seeing light.